Hello everybody, it's Andrew Roberts and David Clouter, and we're here live from Silverstone at the Formula One today. How's it going for you, David? We're having to wear these because the noise of those cars is so loud.
It's absolutely deafening, isn't it, Andrew? And I hope you can hear me. I might have to shout like this at times.
Yes, it certainly is, and we're going to get off from the starting blocks now with our first property strategy. And today, the first one coming up, beginning with N, is David.
It's network, and network is something that we do in real life as well, but especially in property, because there's a group of people who do it, and everybody knows everybody, which has a lot of advantages because we know who the bad boys and girls are, we know who the good boys and girls are, which is sort of terrific. Just see those guys go, there's a saying, isn't it? It's a bit of a kind of old hackneyed old cliche, but they say your network is your net worth. But if you're surrounded with a lot of good people, you're going to be able to help each other. And property, before the days of the internet, it was quite an isolated sort of occurrence, wasn't it? Really, it was quite difficult because you, from not only from week to week, from year to year, you'd never really meet anybody, and you'd never be able to exchange ideas and share tips and this kind of thing. So actually, social media and the internet has made it much easier to network. Or in good times, we can always head up to rugby for a bit of great meeting.
We absolutely can. I was going to say the internet with the YouTubes like this one, again, broaden out your network. And we have certainly had emails in from people who've been on our YouTube channel saying just how good they're finding this series. I'd love you to drop some comments in the box below and give us some feedback, because we're now on, I think, episode 26. That's going some, just like that car was. So keep in touch and let us know what's happening, because that way you're actually networking with us and you can leverage our own networks as well. And we've got quite considerable networks ourselves.
Yes, and pandemic networking has taken the whole thing to a new level, hasn't it, as well? Because I didn't get around the country as much as I'd like to come up to rugby as often as I can. But now that it's like online, on YouTube and these kind of places, I'm in there, and it's fabulous from the comfort of my, I won't say armchair, I've got a gaming chair. Actually, I'll let you into a secret, because I figured that for sitting down for a long time and being comfy, those guys do like 48-hour marathons. So I thought a gaming chair would be the one, rather than an office chair. And indeed, it does all sorts of hydraulic things and leans from side to side and what have you. So there's no better way to network than in your gaming chair.
So you've got the G-force of the Formula One car from side to side, have you?
Well, absolutely. It's rattling about here, which is fantastic. So I think we've said enough about networking, but go out there, network, join the old Great Property Network Facebook group, which is a fabulous one, and there's lots of people out there to help you out, and watch all the videos, including these, but feedback with us, and then it becomes more of a two-way thing.
Yeah. And when you're networking, I mean, just always remember it's not about you. It's about giving to the other person, finding out what they need and what they want, and give them something that will help them achieve their goals. And what you'll find is another thing that happens with networking. You get a law of reciprocity where, because you've given to somebody, they want to help you back. So it's a great way of working together.
And, you don't give to somebody with that in mind, and you're not keeping a tally or anything, but the more you give, the more you receive. And that's just a general principle of life, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, there are three things to say about new build. One of them would be building the new builds, actually. And we all know kind of people who are developers. It's not for the faint-hearted, because effectively you're breaking ground and doing something, taking a bit of a punt on what the market's going to be like in 9 months or a year's time. So you don't quite know. Certainly, I mean, a pandemic can happen in seconds, but luckily that's only every century. But you probably want to keep an eye on the Wall Street Journal and the FT and this kind of thing before you start just to see the way things are headed. My goodness, they're fast, aren't they? It's in the blink of an eye. I'll be watching the reruns of this on the telly later, so I can, because they've got bigger cameras that can track the cars. But when you're right next to the trackside here, it's an amazing thing. So so developing a new build is one angle. It's quite advanced and it's a bit beyond the scope of a sort of little 3 minute pleasantries, but we've certainly got a lot of friends who do that, and it used to be in the old days, I don't know whether it's still the case, but broadly, the money you'd pay if you're a developer is about a third for the land and about a third for the actual building, and up to a third would be profit. But I think the land values have increased proportionally since I was a young lad and was given that advice. So the other two bits have been squeezed a bit. A shame about that last one, the margin, but it is what it is. But then there are two other.
Well, an interesting one on new builds, and from the point of view of being really up to date and really current, we've got the latest new build strategy, which is knock something down and build something new. That's permitted development class ZA. Now, how interesting is that? ZA Zambia? Zambezi? I don't know. Zimbabwe, perhaps? But it's a strategy where you can knock down an existing building and build exactly on the footprint, so you don't have the issue of breaking ground. You can't make it bigger, you can build on the exact footprint. There's more of that in other videos.
Yes, it's very, very exciting, and it marks a whole new chapter in new builds, really, because they're like new old builds.
Yeah.
So, back to the sort of planned stuff. You could go out there and you could buy a new build, and that could be your first investment property. You'd benefit from all the snagging that you can do a little bit further down the line when you'd have the NHBC, is it, whatever, guarantee on the property, which would be terrific, and so it'd be sort of pretty worry free. And you could more or less just move a couple of bits of furniture in, which you're probably renting or something anyway, and you're good to go with tenants very, very, very quickly. There's a sort of downside to that, and that is, it's a bit like driving a new car out of the showroom on day one of the new registration plates. So the minute you drive that new build house out of the showroom, the value drops. And don't advise driving houses along, because it's a bit bumpy.
I'm just looking at that house with wheels on.
The concept, going around the racetrack here, competing with all the Formula One cars. So when you buy a new build, there are a few costs that are factored into the cost. They have to be, which you're not going to be able to recoup. So there's the real crap white goods in the kitchen. They really are mostly the cheapest kind of stuff you can possibly buy that'll fall to bits after 3 months or whatever. You've got all the landscaping and stuff that's been done. That's not really a part of the capital value of the thing. And you've got the developer's marketing costs as well. And these and other costs all have to be offset. And so, it could take 5, it could take even 10 years for this new build house to get back up in step with similar properties nearby. So that's a bit of a downer, which might tend to put people off. On the other hand, you could probably come towards the end of the build, go in there and make them an offer for the show home and get them to throw in all the furniture and that kind of thing. So, there's ways to play it. But there's another new build strategy as well.
Well, I was going to say, the new build strategy where you buy it, it's not one I'd recommend, because the developer's profit and everything else, it generally takes 5 to 7 years before your property's got back to the price that it was when you bought it. And that's not a good investment strategy, where you might be making a yield on a monthly basis, but you've got zero capital appreciation for a good number of years.
Yes, I mean, there are one or two of the strategies we're going through that we don't recommend, and some of them are illegal. Like when we get to S, we'll do sale and rent back. But it's important to know them, so that if some hooligan comes along and says, this is a good idea, you can say, actually, it's not done anymore. for these reasons. And we've got one more coming up either this week or next, depending on how quickly we go through this. One coming up today. But there's another new build strategy, and that is sometimes called contract trading. So we have to look at the developer's kind of life cycle, really, so, and times when they have sort of pinch points, sometimes when they're feeling a bit of pressure. The first is when they're starting a new site. So there's mud everywhere and vehicles and RSJs and noisy builders and things and probably signs at the entrance to the thing saying no swearing. I've seen that on sites, and so not to upset the three people who just bought a home. So and the way these sites work is that as they sell the first 3 or 4, it funds the next 5, 6 or 7, and so no developer comes along, well, very few, with 30 million quid to do the whole thing. It doesn't work that way. So at the beginning, when there would be reluctance from shall we say, retail buyers to buy these things, you could go in there and you could make them an offer for 2 or 3 or 4, and you could say, look, I'll take the first 4. Can you do me a deal? And you might be able to get, as you get with, I don't know, special offers in the shops like burgers or soap powder or something, you might get a 4 for 3. And in the contract trading model, you then sell on 3 of the 4 and get yourself a free one. And so that's quite a nice strategy. And there are other times when you can exploit this reasonably advanced strategy. And don't tell anyone, because this is super secret. Everybody will be doing it if the word gets out there. Another time that a developer, and yeah, it's hard to keep quiet with all this noise, but going on the, yeah. Another time is towards the end of the financial year of the developer, when they need a few sales just to push up the books and make it look rosy for their investors. And another time is near the end of the property, when they've only got 3 or 4 properties left. The developer's mindset is probably in a completely different part of the country, and certainly on a completely different project. And there you've probably got the show house as well as a few others. And so if you do that, the show house would be the one I'd keep, and the others in the deal would be the ones that I would pass on to investors. You have to make sure that it's an assignable deal you do with the developer, and then you can assign those on.
No, you've got some cracking strategies there, and financial year end. A lot of people forget that, because what they're trying to do is make their balance sheet look good, but also meet the covenants that their bankers have got, and the balance sheet basically records it, and they generally have to report that fairly swiftly. So it's a cracking little tip there, and well worth keeping in mind. So, and I love the contract trading one as well. That's sleek as that one is.
No, you're very kind. You're very kind. So, well, now the next 2, and I think we'll have time to polish these in. The one which is still legitimate, and the one which isn't quite as legitimate anymore. So the one that is still legitimate is no money left in. And this is where we buy an old wreck that looks a bit like my house, and we turn it into something nice where ordinary decent folk would go.
Like my house.
Well, exactly. You've nailed it there. And I was having a discussion only a week or 2 ago with an estate agent who I haven't really worked with him before, so he was explaining to me as he would an early stage investor. And I've got a refurb that we were looking around with a view to possibly purchasing this and doing some work. And he said, you've got to understand that although you as a buyer might think it's £50,000 of work looking at it, he said, I reckon you could get it done for 10. Now, again, another secret, I could do it for 5. But, I didn't. I said, oh, well, thank you for that helpful piece of advice. But I'm still going to offer 50 less than asking.
I would ask the agent if he could cost it up and send his build team in as well, because they'll often go, well, actually, I don't know anybody. I just thought you could. Agents come up with some great stories, don't they? Oh,
they do. They do. Oh, absolutely so. Absolutely so. But yeah. So that's just an anecdotal thing, but the point is, it is possible to buy for value, especially when you're direct to vendor and you're not in a scrum with lots of other people, some of whom might be fans of that well-known television show where they buy things at auction, and so they might not be very good at the numbers, but they've seen it on telly, and it worked on the telly, so let's do it, so. But assuming that you can negotiate the price down and always be fair, don't give somebody an insulting price, but pay them kind of what it's worth. And very often there's a lag, isn't there, between the market declining and vendors realizing it and coming to terms with it. Because very often they'll be in denial for a bit and they'll go, that new ensuite cost me $5,000. It's not worth a penny less, and so my house is worth blah. And you're going, but the market's changed. Nope. Right. And they show you the door. So kind of, and part of the estate agent strategy is to value it basically at what we're talking about, estate agents, at whatever the vendor says really, and then over a period of time, gradually sort of manage them down to the price that they know the market will support, because otherwise they wouldn't get any instructions. So you are kind of up against that. But assuming that we have, and we will come back to negotiation, I think, one of our future things, we're going to do that in great detail, because you are the go-to ninja expert. Along with that guy, is it Chris Voss? He does a bit of it, but, there's nobody better. When you're in a hostage situation, call for Andrew Roberts, let me tell you.
Well, thank you. I'll take that plaudit there from you, David, but I work hard at it. I'm continually honing the skills.
You're a good fella. Now,
and you took me to the F1 because I negotiated that we wanted to go to F1 today. So
well, absolutely. I mean, and you've got a lease option on the whole racetrack. So which you did for at the same time as you're negotiating the free passes backstage. So that's pretty damn good. Now, the next no money one is one that we kind of don't do anymore. In fact, I never did this because I always thought it was a bit dodgy, and that is no money down. On this one, it was just extraordinarily ridiculous. Basically, where you'd buy a property in the morning, which is worth this much, by the afternoon suddenly it's worth more, and so all that equity is just kind of funny money out of thin air, and a lot of people were doing it. It was a very popular thing, but it never seemed right to me, so I never did that. I like to add value to my properties either with a shovel or with a pen and some legals, but to pull stuff out of thin air just doesn't feel right, and now we can't do it anymore. And in my view, I don't think we should ever have done that, because there's something very dubious about that.
Yeah, I mean, I know where it came from, in that the crux of it was you were buying at a negotiated discount, and the first lender was basically giving you a loan to value based on what you paid for it.
Yes.
And the remortgage value was based on the actual market value. And because it was a remortgage and you didn't need to have held it for any long period of time, you could just get the market value. So you were refinancing out on a same-day refinance. A little bit like the incorporation strategy, where you do a same-day bridge to actually incorporate your portfolio. And it's a perfectly feasible means of doing. Unfortunately, same-day refinance has lapsed from the marketplace.
Yeah, indeed, and yeah, I mean, I do see it as a strategy. I'm always a fellow though who wants to keep that loan to value quite kind of low, so the ability to borrow a great deal more against something that I'm going to start chipping away at and paying down isn't something. That's me. Isn't something that I go, woohoo, I can borrow twice as much against this property. Well, no, thank you. I'd like to acquire the property, borrow the minimum amount I can, and then start paying it off aggressively. But that's me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's all about, I guess, positioning the life cycle. If you're looking to build up the asset base relatively quickly, maximum gearing can work. However, when you get to later stage life, when your hair goes this colour, I'm a little older than David, if you look.
Young man.
Then you tend to go for lower loan to values, because that way you're left with more revenue and you're paying the debt off before you enter that pensionable state.
That's a good point, given that a lot of mortgages have sort of cut-off points, not all of them, and then there are lifetime loans and all kinds of other stuff as well. But yeah, it's quite nice to enter that wheelchair with the blanket over the knee, knowing that you've got reasonably good LTVs.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that last year the longest running mortgage you had to be paid off by the time you were 92 years old.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's a good long runner, that one is. Good long runner.
I would imagine that they have a life insurance policy on you that pays it off if you pop off. So who's underwriting that? Well,
Not me. Not me. That's not a strategy I'd pursue.
No. In France, though, these things weren't there where you could lend some money that's repayable on the death of the owner. And I know there were cases where the owner, the lender died first, and the owner's still sitting in their little cottage with this thing ticking on forever. So kind of there we are. It is what it is.
Good stuff. Well, David, we've been going 20 minutes now, and I'm afraid the race is coming to an end. If you look, they're just coming up to the finish line now.
Oh my goodness! Is it Graham Hill or am I old?
I think it's Nigel Mansell, to be perfectly honest, or is it Jackie Stewart? Ayrton Senna? Lewis Hamilton, just to get that one in there.
Oh, well, that young fella.
Michael Schumacher. Bit older. But on that note, guys and girls, we've had a fantastic time this week at the races. I hope you'll join us next week when we've got more A to Z strategies lined up for you. Bye.